the third presentation, the cumulative impacts of a CCT, a conditional cash transfer program, and that is the experimental study of making evidence from Indonesia. Ilan Satriawan, okay? Yeah, the chief of the police team, the TNP2K, the University Gajah Mada.
And good afternoon for everybody. So the title of my presentation is Cumulative Impact of the Conditional Cash Transfer Program, Experimental Evidence from Indonesia. So it's a bit different than the title of the session, which is using big data. And this is joint work with Nur Cahyadi of ANU, Rima Hana of Harvard University, Ben Holken of MIT, Rizal Prima of RMIT University, and Eki Samsul Hakim of the World Bank. So CCT actually perhaps by now is the most popular programs around the globe, and I think it owes to the success of the Progresa in Mexico, which is the first CCT program in the world in 1997. And as we know, it then expanded to other countries, Latin America, South Asia, and by now, at least there's 64 countries of CCT program. So as we know that the program actually addresses the poverty through two channels. Short term is actually by providing the cash support to address actually the short-term poverty, and then long-term through investment in human capital by conditioning the cash on compliance with health and education-related behaviors. Some studies actually comparing between the CCT and UCT and shows that it is that CCT actually tend to be more expensive in terms of the costs compared to the UCT, and perhaps that's because the CCT actually require like monitoring for the compliance of the behavior or conditionally the compliance of the behavior conditionality. But I think in terms of the effectiveness, it's conditionality that make CCT actually more successful than other anti-poverty programs. So just brief description about the Indonesia CCT program. We call it Program Keluarga Harapan or PKH. So it was started as a pilot in 6 provinces in 2007 and gradually become a national program in 2013. So it target very poor household with pregnant and breastfeeding mother, with preschool children under 6 years old, and also school-age children, which is who are in the school or up to junior secondary school. And as other CCT program, this program, the PKH actually link benefits to compliance with required conditionality, including that pregnant and breastfeeding mothers should visit local health clinic 4 times or as required by the GP, and then preschooler need to attend village health posts on regular basis for growth monitoring and nutrition supplementation, and school-age children need to maintain their attendance at least 85% out of a total. So the program previously has been evaluated 2 years after the implementation, which is in 2009. So why then another PKH evaluation after 6 years? Well, we have some situation actually that motivate this evaluation. So one that we argue that the evaluation 2 years after the implementation might only capture the short-term incentivized impact. Yeah. While the other outcomes like education and health, including stunting, reflect actually cumulative effects that may only be measured actually in the longer term. There's also a question related with whether static impact actually remain constant over time. Some studies actually have shown that intervention are becoming less effective when implemented at the larger scale compared to the pilot. And then also treatment effect actually could weaken after become more common, and people start not too excited again about it, or once people actually learn that condition, that government actually not really monitor the compliance. Also socioeconomic changes coupled with the value that remain constant that could also make the CCT programs actually less effective. And the third situation that actually motivates us to conduct this longer term evaluation, that we have a unique opportunity to evaluate this cumulative impact of the program. The fact that there's a 61% of the initial control sub-district that remain actually untreated after 6 years. So that actually provide us with the room to evaluate this program even after the 6 years. So let me now discuss about the evaluation design and then empirical strategy. So in 2007, we selected eligible 736 sub-districts based on the characteristic including a prevalence of malnutrition, poverty rate, school dropout, and availability of health and education facilities. And from this pool of these eligible sub-districts, we randomly assign this into two groups. Each group actually contains 180 sub-districts as a treatment group and then control group. And from this total 360 sub-districts, we randomly sample around 14,326 households based on the program beneficiary criteria. The baseline was filled in 2007, right before the implementation of the pilot. And the follow-up midline survey by the World Bank conducted in 2009. And they found there has been there has been some contamination actually of the treatment and control status. They find that 2 treatment sub-districts never received the program, and 39 out of 180 control sub-districts actually received the program. In 2013, we follow up, our agencies actually follow up or conduct another survey. So during this N-line survey in 2013, we successfully interview 95% of this original 14,326 households and interview them that they should actually address the issues of potential issues of the attrition. But we find further conversion from the control to treatment sub-districts. In 2013, about 70 control sub-districts actually received the program. So this table summarizes the treatment status of the sample sub-district. We look to this table, indeed the main issues actually on the conversion of the control group that received the program. In 2009, as I said before, there's about 21.7% out of 180 sub-districts received the program. And further in 2013, we find that about 39% out of 180 control sub-district received the program. So this is something that we need to address actually when we try to estimate the program, and I'm going to tell about this later. So as the estimation strategy, we estimate this equation. Y is the outcome of interest related with the education, and then health as well as the consumption and assets. So Y for household H who live in sub-district S and district D, we regress on the receive of the PKH, receive PKH, and we control the baseline household characteristic that include like the physical characteristic of the house, assets, and so on. And we also include the district fixed effect, and we cluster the error at the sub-district level. The estimating this equation using OLS definitely will lead to the bias, because this contamination, the non-random conversion of the treatment control status. So to address these potential issues, so we use instrumental variable approach. And as a standard approach, we use the original sub-district randomization or original sub-district status as the instrument for this receive PKH variable. So this is the first stage for the 2 years, from the 2 years survey data and 6 years survey data. That shows that the lottery treatment status serve as a strong IV actually for variable receive PKH, our main program variable in this estimation. So results, so we have find some interesting results. So one, we find that the program continued to have strong effects on the pregnancy-related indicators after 6 years compared to the previous evaluation. So particularly, we find that the program actually have the strong and increased impact on the delivery assisted by skilled midwife or doctor, and also on the delivery at the health facility. I should say that in each row of outcomes, we put several statistics, so other than coefficients. In the parentheses, we look at we put actually the robust standard error, and below robust standard error, we include the adjusted p-value with family-wise error rate, and then the last row actually in this box is in the cell is actually the mean value of this outcome for the control group. Effect on the pre and postnatal and then times weight in the last 3 months actually have diminished. So compared in the after 6 years compared to the 2 years evaluation, and no observable impact actually on immunization and number of times children receive vitamin A. So we didn't specifically test actually or try to find the explanation, but one potential reasons why there is a diminishing effect actually of the program on the pre and postnatal, as well as on the times weight in the last 3 months, actually because the control group increased their overall number of visits during the intervening years, and this actually caught up actually the value in the treatment group. Second, we find on the education related program, in the education related outcomes, we find also the program increased school enrollment and attendance for children aged 7 to 15 years old. So the program increased enrollment rate by 4 percentage points in the 6-year survey, and this actually represent a 53% decrease in the fraction of students who are not enrolled in the schools. And if we split actually this group into two, the younger 7 to 12 and the older student 13 to 15. So despite the smaller effect of the program, so the PKH actually PKH impact actually remains significant at reducing non-enrollment school for those in the targeted age category, particularly for older students. This is perhaps one of the most important finding of our study. So the PKH, we find also that PKH substantially reduce stunting among children between age 0 to 60 months in the 6 years follow-up survey. So in the 2 years, in the 2-year survey, the effect is non-significant. And we found actually the significant effect after the 6 years. We find that the program significantly reduce the moderate stunting by roughly around 9%, which is about 23% of reduction in the probability of being stunted. And then we find even stronger effect of the program for stunting, for severe stunting. Yeah. Program declined the severe stunting by around 10 percentage point, which is about 56 percentage reduction if we use if we compare actually to the mean value. So some potential explanation on the why program actually successfully reduced the stunting. So this perhaps owe to the increase of the health-seeking behavior, improved delivery and initiation, as well as increase on in the knowledge of childbirth, and both in the 2 and the 6 years evaluation, as well as on the changes in nutritional intakes of the kids, because mothers report kids more likely to eat more protein source food, particularly in the 2 years evaluation.
Ilan, could you please conclude your study in a minute?
So this PKH also helped to reduce the child labor. We find that the PKH actually reduced the wage work by the children engaged in wage work by 4.4%, as well as for those who working extensively, a reduction by 3 percentage point, which is a decline around 44%. But we don't find actually the impact of the impact of the program on the poverty, on the improving the welfare of the program. So to close the presentation, so I think our evaluation shows that the PKH continues to have a static impact on incentivized outcomes, including health-seeking behavior and school enrollment, although the effect actually smaller in the 6 years evaluation. But in the 6-year evaluation, we observe actually impact on outcome that require cumulative investment, particularly on the stunting and also on the high school completion, something that we don't find in the second year, in the 2-year evaluation. But the study, as I just said, that it doesn't have the transformational poverty reduction effect. So these all imply that CCT program actually help the poor more through the human capital improve or investment that potentially actually help the beneficiary of the program escaping from the intergenerational poverty threat. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. The CCT investments can have a substantial effects on the accumulation of a human capital, and these effects can persist even when programs are operating at large scale without researcher intervention. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions or comment?
Hi. This was a very nice presentation. I'd just like to ask a couple of questions. We've done work on the Philippine conditional cash transfer program called the 4 Ps. In the context of the Philippines, we've actually found something very different in that the effect on stunting and child nutrition is actually negative from the conditional cash transfer. Which was a very surprising result. But in the case of the Philippines, it arose because there's a cap on the number of children. So the new children being born are basically not being monitored by the program. And the program is only focusing on the first children born to the household. So this is skewing intra-household resource allocation. I wondered in the Indonesian design of the program, is there a child cap? Are all children monitored of the household, or are only the first children up to, an eligible cap monitored? And in your data collection in the survey, are you tracking all children, new children being born to households, or only children in the panel from the previous rounds? And one other question would be in the Philippines, as the program has aged, also the health conditionalities, the health and nutrition conditionalities, their enforcement has deteriorated over time. And the participation also in family development sessions, who's attending, whether it's the parents or other members of the household, et cetera. In the Indonesian context, how is the enforcement of those conditionalities been over time? Has that been consistent? Who is attending the coaching sessions? Has there been any change in enforcement? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. So I think very relevant question too for Indonesia. So for the first question, yes, we did. So the government also set a cap for number of children, but so far we cap actually up to 3 children that can benefit from this program. So unlike Philippines that only 1, so Indonesia actually it's more generous. But this is because also perhaps that the value actually is not the value of the benefit is not really big. Yeah. So on average per benefit per household actually might receive like 60 through 220 US dollar per year. And that's relatively constant across 6 years between 2007 and 2013. So Indonesia number of children, family size is perhaps like around 2 or 3. There's some that actually 4, but I think 3 is actually the right. Unfortunately, actually 3 actually this is the right amount for the government to cap. So only few perhaps number of children that not able actually within the beneficiary household not able to access the program. On the second question, actually we mainly focus on the panel children. So we're not we do actually have like some information on the children, but we focus on the panel children. Yeah, I think so that's how I hope I answered the second question. On the third question, I think that's also the issues of Indonesia, particularly after the 2013 when the program start to become national program and start the number of beneficiaries actually significantly expanded. So the government start to actually so the program implementing agency start actually to have the issues in monitoring the conditionality, both education and then also the health, including actually there's some areas, particularly in the remote, they even perhaps not having sufficient number of the facilitators, not mentioning actually the quality of the facilitation. So this is something that perhaps worth another evaluation, because again, when program expanded and then nothing to do on the program itself, I think we might expect that the impact of the program might decline actually soon.
Just sorry, a very quick response. What we noted was the negative impact is on the children who would not be in your panel. They're the new children because they're not within the cap of 3. The parents, there's no monitoring of whether they go to school in the Philippine design. So there's a skew in terms of favoring the initially born children or the eligible children relative to the unmonitored children. And that affects even investment prior to going to school. So it may be useful to caveat this and say this is only for the sort of program monitored children if you have such an issue, and that the other children, there could still be adverse effects that are not captured. Thank you.
Thank you for the inputs.